Big Sky Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. Hey everybody, we got a great guest with us tonight. And so we've got not only the main man from Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization here with us, this guy also survived a trek with Survivor Man.
It's amazing how close they can get, and
Oh
you
God.
not see them, or then you do, and you're like, I can't believe it was able to slip up on us like that. I just want to go to my most recent sighting. It's
Yeah,
I've
tell
only
everybody
ever
that one.
I've only ever had 2 sightings, and I don't make a big deal out of it because it's kind of embarrassing. I feel like it's my job to get a clear, open video photo of a Bigfoot, and then I see them and it doesn't happen. These sightings don't happen for very long and they're gone. It was the last week of August, and Jenny and I were going on top of Monte Cristo Mountain to some springs up there where, this is a local haunt. This is only 60, 70 miles from where we live. We know 7 people personally over the years that have saw Bigfoot up around those springs.
Wow. That's a lot. Imagine how many more there are if that's just the ones you know personally. Oh my God.
So we're going up to service these cameras. We both have to pee really bad. They closed the last public restrooms at the bottom of the mountain. They had them shut down for some damn reason. They're never closed. We're about halfway to the top of the mountain and we just couldn't take it anymore. And we pulled off on some random dirt road we had never been on before, got down that dirt road and pulled off at the first opportunity. I jump out of the truck and I just pee right next to the truck, whatever. And Jenny goes and hides in the trees. I keep a close eye on her, whether you know it or not. I keep a close eye on her in the woods. So I'm kind of like, all right, Jenny, and pretty soon she comes back and we jump in the truck. Well, I go to throw it in reverse and I look up in the mirror, and standing behind us about 30, 35 feet away up on an embankment behind a fallen over tree or a log was a Bigfoot. But that's not what my brain registered at first. 1,000 things went through my mind in a second. I was thinking it was some dude, and I even said that, and it's giving me the creeps. I'm like, that guy watched us pee. And
that pervert.
and I told Jenny, I go, there's some dude back there. And as soon as I said that, and I'd probably watched him for a split second or two, that's when it registered. Was no dude. Dark brown, head to toe, and just huge. And as soon as I said that, it split that direction behind me in my rear view mirror and went out of the frame of the mirror in the back window. When we're up there, we have cameras in grabbing distance, and I snatch my camera beside me, and Jenny could tell by the look on my face. She's like, that wasn't a guy. And I roll out and go running for it. And Jenny's all like, you're not armed. And I'm like, grab something. And I go running up to that log. And I think with my adrenaline that, I should have some fear, but my adrenaline, got the better of me. And I go running up to that log that it was standing behind. And that's when I realized, I knew it was big, but I mean, it was huge. I could see, it was on the other side of the log. I could see the gap between its thighs and its upper thighs on the other side of that log. I get up to the log, and that log's hitting me at the upper belly button. So this thing is 2.5, maybe 3 feet taller than me and much wider, just big. And it split that direction, and immediately we start picking up its tracks. They're Bigfoot tracks, and we track it, and we eventually find a second Bigfoot tracks. There was more than just that one, and there usually is. I mean, people that stereotype it as a lone creature, that's not so. If you find some Bigfoot tracks and you look around carefully enough, you'll usually find that there's another one or more. They stay in small family groups or whatever they are. Well, we tracked this thing. We lost and picked up the track several times to private property. And there was no need to go on private property, which I won't without permission anyway. But you could see where it stepped over the fence. And this fence is hitting me about lower chest level.
Oh,
and,
God.
And it looks like it stepped over it, no problem, from private property onto public land. And these tracks were about 17 inches long by 8 inches wide at the toe splay. Not sure if it's the one that I saw, but more than likely they come over for public property, and then after we had our sighting with them, they probably ran back that same direction. They're smart enough to know that there's less presence and less people pressure on these private properties. I'm pretty sure if the deer figure it out, you ever notice during hunting season, the day before hunting season opens up, you see herds of deer, and then all of a sudden hunting season and you don't see them anymore. And a lot of them head for private properties where there's less human pressure. I'm sure the Bigfoot knows where to be too. But anyways, a storm was rolling in. It was getting dark. We finally had to leave. That was my second sighting. This one wasn't as massive as the first one, even though that first one was a quarter mile away and this one was only 35 feet away. I could tell that this 7.5 Bigfoot was smaller than my first sighting in 2018.
Do you think he learned his lesson? Man, the last time I watched humans pee, they tracked me 2 miles through the woods. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, I think something's wrong with me. I think I've gotten desensitized to the fear for some reason, because most people see something like that, a monster coming to life. A normal person would have stayed in the car and split. Instead, I'm diving out and running after the damn thing. So
I have several friends that react to that just like you, Kelly. It's amazing. I had one of them that saw one go running across this open area in the woods. And he's like, well, that thing's only like 40 feet away from me. It's cutting right across the road. Zoom, running through the woods, going that way. I'm going after him. So he goes running after him. And it abruptly stops and just stands behind this huge stump and looks at him. And he's looking at it closer now. And he's like, that thing's got a snout. That's not a Bigfoot. I'm turning around now. He got a couple of pictures and beat ass out of there. So, yeah, sometimes, it gets the best of us. When I was up there in September with my buddies, we spotted what we thought was one up on a ridge line because it looked just like I was seeing something that looked like a black cone-shaped head. And then when William looked up there, he saw something brown and furry. And I went, well, get your camera on. What are you going to do? Oh, I'll run up there and see if it moves. Well, of course, it moved way before I ever got up there because I'm pitifully slow even on level ground, much less trying to run up a hill. So it just probably fell over laughing and then slowly ambled away. But whatever it was, it actually moved. So we still don't know what it was. Oh, my God. Well, some other things. You managed to catch quite a bit of interesting stuff. And one of them that I liked is where you were out doing one of your roadside drives and let's talk Bigfoot while we're driving and filming the road. And you come around this corner and there's this big berry bush there. And there's something eating the berries. And you're like, what's that? And you pull over. And, of course, the Kelly Shaw, I'm going to jump out with a camera and go running right to where it is and film it right now. I don't care if it's 20 feet tall. You're right in the damn bush, like 3 seconds after it was there looking for tracks, trying to film it.
I did not follow it into the forest. I stopped at the tree line and then realized that it probably would not be smart to run into the woods after it.
Yeah. Well, what was the forest, like 10 feet beyond the berry bush that you did go into and check out?
The berry bushes, it was at the tree line for sure. Yeah. Thinker Thunker did a breakdown of that Bigfoot. That Bigfoot had that berry bush pulled down so it could easily pick berries, I'm guessing. So, yeah, instead of climbing it had it ripped down. And then when we come around the corner in the vehicle, it let it go. Thump. After our hike to service some game cameras about 35 miles back in Sasquatch Canyon on the drive out, as we round this bend just left of center, a black creature hides behind this tree, an animal or a creature. We didn't identify it. We'll show it to you again a couple of times. We also slow it down a couple of times. I got out and went and looked for it, and I could hear it and kind of see the black movement deep in the bush. Now there it is again. The tree that it hides behind is just shaking. And this tree's like 9 feet, maybe 10 feet tall. It looks like it was shoving it over. There's berries in this tree. We just saw a big black animal or creature. He hid behind this tree as we rounded the corner in our car. Look at the berries in this tree. This is where he was at.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw him.
Did you get him?
I don't know. I could hear and see him moving back there. I don't know if the camera got him though. He's up here eating these. This is crazy. A lot of people don't know about this. Not even a half a mile from where that all happened, and it's getting dark and it's raining. We got a flat tire. So Jenny and I is out in the
What
dark.
is this flat tire thing happening?
Hey, you go off-roading as much as we do, you get a lot of flat tires. You better have a compressor and a bunch of fix-a-flats. And I even have an extra spare now after I got the 2 flat tires up in Oregon. Her and I's in the dark in the rain, and a half a mile away, we just saw this, what we suspect may have been a Bigfoot. We weren't quite sure. We only caught it for a second. We're so happy that we had a dash camera that could go back and review the footage and have someone like Thinker Thunker that's an excellent video breakdown expert to go in there. And
If that was a bear, that was a freakishly big bear. So
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Sasquatch just because of the size of it.
yeah, and so we had someone to be able to do the analysis. But whatever it was, we knew that was only a half a mile away, and we're in the dark and the rain changing a freaking flat tire. So that was unnerving.
Yeah, if you had a little better relations with it, it could be like, "Hey, bud, can you hold the end of the truck up here while we're changing the tire for us?"
That's right. Wouldn't even need to pull out the jack.
No, you can just grab it with one hand, hold it up while you're busy changing the tire on it. It'd be nice and easy.
Uh-huh.
I had somebody down south joking about that. Like, I wish I was on better terms with the Sasquatch. I need to re-roof the house. And they could just put those, pallets of shingles right up on there without even needing a forklift or anything. They just pick them up, throw them on the roof for me.
I do believe
Sasquatch
that
roofing.
I do believe that I got my first dash camera in like 2015, and it just drove me nuts that I didn't have one leading up to that, because studying Bigfoot sighting reports, over half the reports happen from
Driving.
the front seat of a vehicle. I mean, not necessarily crossing the road from you, but like my 2 sightings, I was in a vehicle. The one 2018, I was in the passenger seat. The one just a few months ago, I was in the driver's seat, and then this one with the berry bush from the vehicle again. So I think I had only had that dash cam for a year when that happened. The expenses of Bigfooting, my list of equipment and places I want a Bigfoot is much bigger than my budget. So I just pick away at it. After that day, that dash cam's worth its weight in gold. People are more likely to see a Bigfoot from the front of their seat. So I always try to keep one rolling in the car, because you're more than likely going to see one from the car than out on these hikes. There's this misconception there will be a sighting, and people are like, isn't there a busy road right there? And I'm like, well, I don't think Bigfoot read the rule book that it can't go near a busy road. And I don't think there's an animal on the planet, especially in the lower 48, that can live its life without having to cross a road at one point in time to get the resources it needs. Bigfoot's got to have a large territory. A wolverine will have like a 50 square mile area, and a large wolverine will weigh 50 pounds, the average maybe 30, 35 pounds. They need a 50 square mile area. Okay,
Yeah.
Now you take an 800-pound Bigfoot and his family. How big is their territory? They're going to have to cross a lot of roads. So people need to throw these stereotypes out. Bigfoot don't read your rule book.
The other thing is that they're highly curious, and I've heard several reports of ones in certain areas that have a fairly well-trafficked road, and they got a favorite spot where they build a blind, and they'll just sit there and watch the traffic on the road for half the day. And if you know they're there, every time you drive by, you can look and see if they're sitting there watching the road. And oftentimes they are, because they've already been up and scouted these spots and went, why is there a blind here? There's no game trail next to this road.
Well, they're curious creatures, and they watch and they learn, and they watch and learn from people. My uncle had a Bigfoot sighting where the Bigfoot unzipped the tent that him and his cousins were in. How do you learn how to unzip? from watching. Here locally, about 30 miles south of where I live in Big Cottonwood Canyon, about 30 years ago, this family had a Bigfoot sighting. The first sighting that I recall, some of the kids up in the top room of the cabin, they heard the outhouse door slam. I think they were all like teenagers. The parents let them use the cabin for the weekend, and they knew that everybody was in the cabin. So they're looking out the window like, who went in the outhouse? And a couple of seconds later, it opens up and a Bigfoot comes walking out. Well, how'd that Bigfoot learn to open that outhouse door? It's from hiding and observing. And then like that Rogue River one where it come into the lady's home, it learned how to open the door. I've also heard of instances where the Bigfoot has unzipped a tent and taken stuff out of the cooler. The Mogollon Rim incident with Mitch Wade, where it's on Finding Bigfoot and everything, where the Mogollon monster got inside of his cooler. They are smart, they're curious, and they watch and they learn.
I can attest firsthand that they do that, because when we were doing our stakeout on the Blackfoot River, they would come into camp and just raid the coolers.
Right.
They'd open them up, take something in there that was yummy. Never take all of it. They always have to leave some, because apparently we can't count. So as long as there's some, we don't think any of it's missing. So they'll never take all of it. They'll leave some.
And a bear doesn't carefully open up a cooler and pick
Hell no,
around
they
it.
just knock it over and they eat everything and they make a mess and they scatter packages all over. We had one where we had 4 pork chops that had gone bad. They were still in the package, hadn't even been opened, and they turned gray. So we were going to haul them out of camp and get rid of them, because stinky attract bears, right? So that night it was nice and cold, so it's not putting off any stank. We have them wrapped in a regular white plastic bag with the end of it underneath it, just laying on the ground. So I get up in the morning, it's in exactly the same position with the end underneath it, laying on the ground, and I go to pick it up and it's too light. I'm like, what the hell? So I open up the package and I look inside, and something had made a nice slit along one side of the plastic wrapping, had pulled 2 of the pork chops out, left the other 2 pork chops, carefully put the plastic back over it so it looked exactly the same as the way they had found it. No animal is going to do that. If they're going to eat it, they're going to just tear it open and eat all 4 of them. They're not going to try and conceal that they took 2 of them. They're not going to leave any there to, like, so you can't count. You don't know that 2 of the 4 are missing, right? So they can, humans can't count. And then the other thing, is, who the hell is going to take rotting gray pork chops and then carefully conceal the theft of 2 rotting gray pork chops? So it's really obvious who was doing this, but the lengths they go to conceal it. And they were sneaking into camp and ripping off food from our cooler so often I had to take my cooler and put it right next to the tent under the rain fly. And it didn't stop them. One of them woke me up. I could feel the top of the cooler bapping me on the side of the tent, and something was rummaging around in it. Something was leaning on the side of the tent, so I rolled over and smacked at one, and whatever it was just backed up, and the cooler top dropped again, and everything was nice and silent. So I don't know what exactly I smacked, but it maybe was a Bigfoot that was trying to raid my cooler. It got the hint anyway. Pitiful human punch doesn't hurt them, but it was enough to go, oh yeah, I woke the human up. That's why he's got the cooler literally right next to him. So if I'm messing with it, I'll wake.
I want to discuss something your neck of the woods out there near the Missoula area. A couple of years ago, a woman got a hold of me and told me that Dad's retired wildfire chief or something like that, and he was based out of Missoula. She said that he and his guys that he managed had some Bigfoot stories out near St. Regis Pass on that Highway 90 that goes off toward Coeur d'Alene, but somewhere on those dirt roads near St. Regis Pass, I believe some years they would set up a fire camp there, stage their operations to fight fires and stuff. And she told me that I might want to check that area. She told me that she would have her dad get a hold of me with some of his stories, which he never did. And I followed up with her and she's like, I've been trying to get him to get a hold of you, but I was just wondering if you've been Bigfooting in that area or have heard of any sighting report between Missoula and the St. Regis Pass.
Have you driven between Missoula and Coeur d'Alene on that road?
I've never been there.
It's a 176-mile long mountain valley, and there's no side roads. There's like maybe a little fire access road or something. There's two tiny
Okay.
little villages that got a population of about 30 people between
Uh-huh.
Missoula and Coeur d'Alene, with 176 miles of mountain range and forest in between.
Well, I see that there's a dirt road that is pretty close to St. Regis that goes from St. Regis across the Idaho border, and it ends up in St. Marie's. It goes through Avery, Hoyt, Herrick. I don't know. Maybe that isn't a dirt road. It's
Well,
the
it could be that.
282.
Yeah, if it's 2 lane, it could be something that's in use. And the other thing is some of those roads in the mountains, like you can only use them in the summer. They're closed.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to know if you've ever heard of any Bigfoot activity anywhere in
No, it
those
wouldn't
areas.
surprise me at all. But everywhere around here, we've got mountain ranges that are full of Sasquatch, and we constantly get, it's to the
Mhm.
point where I don't even bother to keep track of the reports like you do. You've done a better job. You probably got, as a matter of fact, didn't you do a video on the John Stoner encounter here in Missoula in 1896?
Yes, I did.
There you
Yes,
go.
I did.
You covered it. And by the way, folks, that's right here where I live, 5 miles outside of town. Him and his horse got jumped by an angry Sasquatch that wanted to mug him for some reason.
Mhm.
And it was 125 years ago.
For some reason, you guys get some of the most aggressive Bigfoot in Montana. There must be something wrong with me. I like the aggressive Bigfoot sightings. I feel like the aggressive ones may be easier to get on camera. I mean, it hasn't been working out for me so far, but I get excited and I want to go. And I'm sure Jenny's like, what in the hell's wrong with you? A Bigfoot just beat the hell out of a guy. Let's go. And
He's probably all tired out now. We should be safe.
yeah, it's
Well,
like the dead.
Kevin pointed out the same thing when he was over on the west side of the Bitterroot Mountains. All the Sasquatch over there, crabby as crap. And then you get over here in the next range over in the Sapphire Mountains, and they seem to be just the opposite, where they're all just curious and halfway friendly. And then you go into some other areas, and they're like, "Oh, human, squish them with a boulder." So I think it kind of depends on the area that you're in, and also the person that's there, how they're going to react to you. Because there's some areas where humans get out, we don't want you around, and there's other areas where I think it's case by case. It's like they're gonna react to you based on what they sense from you and what you seem to be doing.
I have a theory. I think the Bigfoot have to be aggressive in some of these areas in Montana where different parts have large grizzly populations. The Bigfoot's
Well, that's
got
all over Western Montana.
yeah, he's got to be tougher and meaner than the grizzly bear. In the Bitterroot Forest on the border of Idaho and Montana, where the bombing incident happened like 135 years ago, and his partner got killed. Teddy Roosevelt writes about it. Well, we found that location. Took us several years, but we found where it's at, and we've camped there and everything. Well, when Lewis and Clark come through that area, them and their crew, they would not go down by the rivers. They took the crappy road, the high road. Not easy to travel. It's easier to travel down by the river, but they stayed up high the mountain walls to avoid the thick, raunchy grizzly bears down by the rivers. If the grizzly bear problem back then was that bad, it makes sense to me why the Bigfoot was so aggressive, having to deal with run these bears off.
Yeah. And also think about what that's going to result in just because of the natural pressure, and you've got 1,000-pound grizzlies running around. Well, the alpha male in the troop needs to be able to whip a 1,000-pound grizzly's ass, is essentially what it comes down to. So it's going to lend toward, you're probably not going to have alpha males that are 8 feet tall. They're probably going to be more like 10 or 12 feet tall, so they can whip a 1,000-pound grizzly's ass. See what I'm saying? So that sort of is a pressure toward making them larger in certain areas. If they got more giant prey animals and more other dangerous predators in the area that are large size, they have to be larger in order to deal with them.
Well, science has already shown that mammals get larger the further north you go. The mountain lions, the moose, the bears get bigger. So, you're further north of us. The mid-north Montana Sasquatch are going to be bigger than the Utah Sasquatch, and it's like you get down into Arizona, the northern mountains of the Mogollon Rim, Tonto National Forest and stuff. I mean, 8,000 feet elevation, you think Arizona and you're like, what? Bigfoot lives there? But we went there to investigate the area. These are high mountain areas, thick forest, and just chock full of elk and deer. The sightings of the Mogollon monster, they describe something that's smaller than here. You know, the creature is usually about 7 feet tall at the biggest, a lighter brown color, not as thick, not as robust, but you start looking at the descriptions, and people capture them on video and photos once in a while.
Yep.
They get bigger the further north you go, just like the mountain lions and the bear and the moose. They also get bigger the further north you go. So it makes sense that you guys have some of the biggest Sasquatch, the lower 48.
Yep. And you go north of us up in Canada and you find ones that are even bigger. Blaine Tyler, he caught that one, Lord of the Sasquatch Dunes on video, where he was just filming this gravel pit area. And there's one down at the end of the gravel pit watching them. And he caught it on video. And then when he came back and tried to figure out where it was standing and measure it, it scared the living hell out of him, because he found the tree it was standing right next to, and its head was up around 16 feet. And this thing was built like the Hulk. And he didn't even want to go back to that area after that. Like, way too scary. But there are big ones in parts of the country you wouldn't expect them to be. When I had Robert Kreider on, he was showing video where they were chasing a really big alpha male around in this lowland thicket area. And they had followed his tracks, and if I recall correctly, they're 22, 23 inches right into this thicket. And they had him kind of stuck in there. He was too big to get out of it without making noise and giving away where he was exactly. And then there was a smaller 8-footer that was in the next thicket over that was making a big racket to get their attention. So they'd go over and pay attention to him, and the big one could make a getaway. But they weren't falling for it. And finally, Rob held his camera up as high as he could above his head. And right as he was holding it up, the big one in the thicket poked his head up to take a look if he was still over there. So he got the top of his head looking at him. But Jesus, really huge Sasquatch. And what he says down there, mostly, the ones like you're talking about, they are around that size. But you also get these gigantic alpha males, and it seems like they'll leave the female and the kids in a secluded area where they're not liable to be found, and then they go roam around, and they might not come back every 4 or 5 days, every once a week, something like that. They'll come back through the area and check up, and you'll see their tracks again, and then they're gone again. So just because you're in an area where in general they're smaller doesn't mean they're all going to be smaller. Same thing with the folk area down there where William Lunsford is. You get a lot of the southern wood boogers, usually reported 7, 8 feet tall. But those guys have found monstrously huge tracks down in their area. They haven't been able to catch any of them on video yet, but they know there's some huge adults down there. And generally it's because they're so good at hiding and they're so sneaky. It doesn't matter how big they are. You might find their tracks, but you're almost never going to get them on video. You just can't trick them. Another thing that you filmed, that speaking of really giant ones, where you got that one across the canyon from you, and then you guys had to come back and try and find that spot, and you had Derek and everybody out there with, calling each other, "Are you in the right spot?" "Yeah, no, go a little bit more to the right." And you're trying to get this comparison and everything. And man, whatever you caught there, it wasn't there when you came back again. And it was friggin' huge.
Yeah, we couldn't recreate that. We couldn't find a trick of light or shadows or stump. But if you look in the video, the thing's eyes are blinking and its mouth is moving. And, I know the creature's watching us, and they're a master of stealth, master of camo. And one of the best ways to stay camouflaged is to hold still. But it was still moving its head and eyes and mouth around a little bit. Yeah, that was an amazing investigation, because we got there like a day or two right after the witness saw it. Let's see, Clint Richens got a hold of us and said, "Hey, this guy I know got a hold of me, knows I'm into Bigfoot, and he just saw one." I mean, he got a hold of me like an hour or two after it happened, and the guy and his girlfriend saw it just as the sun was going down, so it was already dark when he got a hold of me. So we come back at the next opportunity, and Clint was also friends with BFRO's investigator for Utah, and I think he also does some stuff in Idaho or whatever. He does the investigations for BFRO, Todd Strong. So anyway, he showed up at the same time as us and interviewed the witness and everything. I think he misunderstood the witness, and he takes off the mountain. I think he was trying to beat us to the punch to find the evidence, and
Went the
and
wrong direction.
he took off the mountain the wrong way. And then, we sat and chatted with the witness for a little while longer, and I understood what the witness was talking about. So we went the right way. Well, this is how it all went down. Him and his girlfriend were fishing down on the Lost Creek Reservoir. After he was done fishing, they decided to just go up a random draw and hike around a little bit near the reservoir. It wasn't there on the way in that they hiked. They got back into the draw, and what got them to come back out and finish their hike early is they could hear a deer in distress, just making its screams and all that. And so they started coming back, and they found the deer. It was laying right where they had hiked past earlier. It was a doe trying to give birth, and it was laying there in distress. Well, this kid, he grew up on a ranch. He's helped animals give birth. So he got down there trying to pull the fetus out, and he said the fetus had probably been deceased a couple of days because the skin was sloughing off and he could smell that it was bad. He couldn't get it out, so he knew this deer was going to die. So he laid up at the head of the deer, petting it, trying to comfort it in its last moments of life. And then his girlfriend noticed it up on the hill. She's, oh my gosh, what is that? And they look up, and standing up near the ridge line, about 70 yards away, next to a tree, staring at him. Maybe the screams of the doe got it to come in. And so anyway, when we showed up to do the investigation, everything's just like they told us the night before. The deer's there. Todd takes off the mountain the wrong way for whatever reason. And then we got the witness to put us in the location, and we get up to, before we even get to where the Bigfoot was standing, we started finding tracks. We found a bedding spot, saw where it put its hand down a couple of times, measuring tracks, measuring the handprint, right where he said it was. And when that Bigfoot noticed them staring at it, walked right up over the ridge line. I don't know, 4 or 5 steps, and then disappeared. So all the evidence backed
Well, and
up.
you
exactly
found
what
its
the witness was
little
saying.
nest laydown spot there along their travel route. It was laying there under cover, watching them when they came in.
Yeah, more than likely, that's what it looked like. When we were putting the videos together and stuff, we noticed what looked like this gigantic Bigfoot from across this draw, watching us investigate its sighting. We come up several times over the next couple of weeks, trying to time it right, the right time of day, so the lighting conditions and everything would be the same. We just couldn't debunk it. We're never able to recreate what was standing there the day we were doing the investigation. So we may have very well caught the Bigfoot they saw the day or two before.
Oh, I think you did.
Just right, almost to the top of that, just right underneath that. Of that yellowish, lighter colored bush? Yeah, but about halfway up that tree. There's a little bit of out top. So it wasn't a call at the top of that pointy side? No. And what did it do? Which way did it go? It just turned, it came, it took about, what looked like to me about 2 steps into that opening, and then went straight up over the top.
So it took 2 steps that way,
This way,
up to the left,
and then straight up and over the top.
So probably right over the top, so either right over the top or it went behind that big rounded bush.
Exactly. You want me to stay down here?
No, we can go up there. I don't care.
Okay, this is the deer.
Thanks.
This is the doe that was experiencing some trauma and actually gave birth to a stillborn.
So we were right. Yeah, we didn't even get through it.
I want to go up there. You want to go?
Okay.
Want to go up there?
Or do you want me to stay down here and give you a comparison?
May have had more than one. May have another fawn in her.
Can you hike up there?
Yeah.
Because he's probably the tallest one here.
He's giving us that first.
And then you can tell me.
Okay. Yeah.
Think we can yell?
Yeah, because we don't got both of this.
I'm gonna walk through my car. But
We gotta get down, we oughta walk up there and see if we can walk up behind it.
I'm going
I don't know.
I think we need to do a lot of documentation of the area.
Walk back up in.
I really should.
And the whole time I got up in here, we were about 30 minutes before. Well, when we first walked up in here.
About what
it was
time
probably,
is this?
When I seen this,
Yeah,
it was
when it
about
happens.
30 to 45 minutes before dark.
Okay.
And we'd walk back up in here probably around 6:37. I should walk back up into the ways and was just hanging out. The whole time I was in this, it just didn't feel right.
So it
Just-
probably
just an-
followed you out. It probably knew and just kind of followed you.
It was just an uneasy feeling. And so we come down, we were sitting there, and it was actually about, I was probably only no more than 100 yards up, not even that far, 50 yards when I heard the scream. I'm like, no.
Scream from the doe.
I think it was a doe giving birth. And pain is what I think. And I listened, and I heard some sheep. I'm like, I hear sheep. And then it did it again. And I thought it was a lion killing a deer, because that's what it said. Because it sounded like a big doe bleat, like a dying rabbit almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I told her, I'm like, that's a lion. Let's get the hell out of here. I don't want to be right here if there's a lion killing a deer.
Yes.
And I come down the trail on the other side of the tree. I come right here, and that thing stood up from me to that bush. And I seen that fawn hang out, and I thought it was a lion on the back of that thing. It scared the living hell out of me. So, but it stood up, and then that's when I seen her had that stillborn baby in there. And she was all but done. And God, she's nice.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
So we stood there for 20 minutes saying, like, what the hell I didn't have my knife on me.
Yeah.
I would have just slit her throat.
Yeah.
She was done.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, try to pull the baby out. And I only got, it was just the tip of the head and the feet that was hanging out. And I got it out about yay far. And then the legs started pulling off. I'm like, I'm done. This is freaking nasty.
It was
stinks.
It was
But it
already
smelled like
bad
the
shape.
baby had been dead for like probably a day or two in there because it was stiff.
Yeah.
It was just nasty smelling. So I don't know.
She'd gotten down this far trying to have it or something.
Because she had to, because we walked up. But we didn't walk up this trail. We walked up right here. So if she was laying right there, I don't know how the hell I would have missed her coming up the canyon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right here, a little bit farther up, and just kind of stumbled her ways
Yeah,
around. But
probably.
I really should just go put that drone up. I could have been up and down this thing 10 times by the time we made it up.
Well,
there.
you brought it.
Yeah, go use a battery on it. We're on property you can use it on.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah.
you get back up here farther, and it's just thick and shady. And
Oh, yeah. Well, take a walk up in there for a bit.
oh.
They're looking.
They're bending over.
They're bending over looking at the ground.
Bushes, looking at something.
They're totally
They
watching the
must
ridge.
have found some, 'cause they're up there just.
So are they right where I showed them?
I don't think so. I thought you were pointing on this side of the juniper. They're on this
the
side.
left side, up on the very top.
It happened on the right side. He was probably walked along the ridge watching you guys for a while, or watching the deer.
Probably. She was probably more interested in what was going on right here.
Derek sending Squawk up. We got a Sasquatch-shaped creature that stepped out of some trees, looked up at it, and stepped back. It's shaped like it, but we didn't get anything definitive to be able to scream that's what it was, but it looks a hell of a lot like one, and it's moving too. Right above a canyon, people keep having sightings.
Yeah.
Right up at the top in some cover and stuff that it stepped out and back in. We were hoping they'd be more curious of it than afraid. Looks like we found where the doe may have been bedding down, that died giving birth down there
Probably
by
spooked,
Mike and Curtis.
probably spooked by the witness Curtis coming down out of here. It heard him coming, and she's vulnerable. Probably got up and tried getting out of Dodge.
Whatever happened, she screamed for 10 minutes before he found her.
So what caught our attention here is it looks like a bedding spot.
Yeah.
Soft dirt, even kind of looked like a print here. But if you look at it further, what you're looking at is probably the hind legs of a deer laying down. You see some hoof prints in there, and this doe was giving birth. So she was probably bedded down here to actually give birth, and had to get up and move.
We're getting a call up
Not
front, I
sure
think.
what.
Yeah.
Not sure what spooked it. Let's go.
All right, Brody found something.
Yeah.
See how it is?
Yep.
See if you get closer, you can see the fingers.
People are gonna have a hard time seeing that.
You know what? When they climb something steep like this, they put their hands down sometimes. Check that out.
It was here this way. I thought I saw footprints. You found probably the deer's bedding spot.
I know. Derek don't care about the handprint.
Oh, I do.
Just kidding.
I know it came from this direction.
Check this out. That is a weird print. I'm not sure what it is. But look. See this? See that?
Yeah.
That's something. Look at this, that.
You know, all I gotta say is that handprint
It's going this
badass.
way,
That's
too.
probably one of
Yeah.
the best
And
handprints
that
we've ever
definitely
had.
looks like a
Look how
hill.
splayed that is. What is that?
And it looks like a hill.
Like, look how big that is. What I'm looking at though? Do you see that, Kelly? Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's just kind of like, it's not what I'm normally seeing. You know what I mean?
Oh, you got a foot?
Well, there's my boot. My boot's 13 inches long. So,
It's got a splay of 8, 10.
it's a good display if that is indeed a
What it
toe.
is.
It's just not good enough, you know what I mean?
Well, I know they've been finding some good stuff up on the top.
I mean, here's something right here. See that? Something's been coming through here.
Something with flat feet.
Yeah, see that? That's a pretty wide foot.
I can also see toes up here. Like it stepped right here. That's a good sized footprint if that's the whole footprint, and it really is crushed the sagebrush.
Well, like it did with this grass. This grass actually is all matted down, all broken off and matted down right where that other print you guys just...
I think it came from here. Here's another one. Right here.
He walked this line right here.
This is another footprint.
He's even smashed down some of this milkweed. It's another footprint that Brody found. This is between the sighting location, the deer, and the Bigfoot that the guy actually seen up on the mountain. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see the toes up here and the hill back here, but this is a 17-inch footprint. My boot's 13 inches long. I've got it right by the hill now, and it looks to us, this is about the 3rd or 4th footprint that we've found so far on the hillside between the deer and where he spotted it. We're dealing with one that has at least a 17-inch footprint. Where'd I put my pack? It's down there somewhere. We have found 7 impressions working our way up here that look like 17-inch or better.
Coming from where?
Zigzagging up this way, we've
This way.
right up to this spot.
Coming from down there.
Below it,
Yes, between the dead deer and here, and one handprint. One of the best handprints that we've seen.
Do you know
Yeah.
do you remember where that was? Down.
We can work our way down, and
Yeah, so we want to go down.
they're looking for some more up here too. Did you guys see any impressions or anything up there?
Where you're standing, it's been over.
So dry. Let's see. We're looking for evidence of a Bigfoot sighting that just happened recently this week.
A couple days ago.
I've already thrown the helicopter up here once.
I don't know if I did a 360 up here. I probably should have. Pan out. Let him check out that.
Just a second, I'm zooming in on a dark spot that I see across the way. That's the dark spot that I see. It's worth zooming in on. Kind of stands out from the shadows.
Look at this.
dark spot that I see. It's worth zooming in on. Kind of stands out from the shadows.
We just went through the same thing here with the piece of random video we got up in Patty Canyon a few years ago. And we've been going up to that exact same spot, same time of day for years, and different times of the year too. And you know, we know it was filmed in like September. So this year when I had the team here with me, we went up there in September, same time of day, same time of year, same light conditions. Let's see if that huge Bigfoot shaped shadow that's 12 feet tall is there. No, it's not there. And the other thing is, you know, since subsequent viewings of the same piece of video over and over again, Jeff, who filmed it, actually caught 4 of them. The one standing up, peeking around behind the tree, Mr. Big. That was the obvious one, but there's 3 other ones. And we've been up there enough times and looked at the video. It's like none of those objects are there. Snubs don't get up and walk away.
Right.
You know. So yeah, you know, I tried to debunk myself originally too, and went, it's a trick of shadow. And then after going up there over and over and over and over again, it's like the shadow isn't appearing again. You know? Right. After like 4 or 5 years of doing this over and over again, that shadow ain't there, guys. Whatever that was, it got up and done walked away after we filmed it, you know. So yeah, and that's one of the things that very few of the researchers bother to do is actually go back to the same spot, take comparison video, and sometimes you go through a nightmare. You may be up there, you know, half a dozen times trying to set it up again and find the right spot and get there at the right time of day and the right weather conditions. And man, it's not easy. You could be out in the middle of nowhere, not on a trail, and it's like, oh, now I got to go out in this 5,000 acres and find that 2 square foot spot I was standing on when I filmed this originally, and do it the same time of day, same light conditions, same weather conditions.
And always remember, don't flip off the mountain giant, don't poke Dogman with a stick, don't punt the puckwudgies, and for God's sakes, whatever you do not hug the Wookiees.
That is some Bigfooting advice from Duke on World Bigfoot TV.
Don't give donuts to Nessie either.
Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.